This program and its contents are designed for information and educational purposes only. This program does not render medical advice or professional services and is not intended to be a substitute for professional care. The information provided here should not be used for the purposes of diagnosing or treating a medical or psychiatric condition. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, consult your healthcare provider.
Hi, welcome back to Positive Momentum TV. I'm Diane Silva, and we have Dr. Scott Butler from UNO and Boys Town. And we're going to discuss learning, how it's different. We discussed that learning is different between children and adults. You want to kind of...
Yeah, I think so often when we talk about people who are suffering from anxiety or fears, they've tried so many different strategies as a way to address that.
Yeah.
And oftentimes you hear people say, it doesn't work for me.
Okay.
As a lifelong educator and being able to study what it takes to learn, what I've learned personally is that the way kids go about learning and the way adults learn it is radically different.
Okay.
So oftentimes as adults, we try to revert back to the strategies that worked well for us when we were in elementary, middle school, and high school.
Okay.
And they don't work anymore. Maybe imagine that adult learner who's returning to graduate school.
Yeah, I can imagine that person.
You can imagine that person?
Yeah, I can imagine that person.
Oftentimes the first thing is we revert back to the notes and the notebooks and the reading. And it's just not clicking like it once did.
No, it doesn't even, as I said, I can relate, and it's just like, not clicking, it's like, what did I just read?
Right, and what's happened is that our experiences as adults have changed the way we go about learning. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what it takes for adults to really learn and apply new strategies.
And retain.
And retain. So if we're talking about a self-help book, it's not just, I try to read it when I go to bed and I'm tired, I read a page and I fall asleep. Mm-hmm. But it's something that I can understand and put into use.
Okay, so
let's, as adults, one of the major changes for us is that learning becomes more of a social activity.
Okay.
When we ask kids about the social side of school, they think about the hallway, the lunchroom. Mm-hmm. They don't think about the study at home. For us as adults, we need to involve our peers in learning. Okay. So the more we can have group interaction, group discussions, maybe a study buddy group, we're going to do better. So if you're trying to apply some strategies to control anxiety, for example, having a friend in your life, a cherished companion, as my wife refers to me, makes me think of a Cocker Spaniel, but if you can have a cherished companion who will walk that walk with you, and you do it as a social connection, maybe you meet at the coffee shop on Sunday afternoons to talk about the last week and what strategies you tried and what worked. Okay. That's social learning. Adults do far better with that than we do reading a book and studying.
Right. I can speak for people I know. You know, you pick up a book and there's those who have eidetic or, you know, memories, and then there's those of us who have no memory whatsoever. It's like when we go for testing, it's like, I'm testing how good my memory works. It doesn't. You know, I can apply the stuff.
And that's an outgrowth of our busy lives. So that brings up another point. As adults, we don't have the time that kids always have. Mm-hmm. If a kid has a pre-calculus test tomorrow, he can sit and study for 30 minutes or an hour, maybe. As a mom, a spouse, a friend, you probably rarely have an hour of time where you can just dedicate to something like that.
Yeah, and if you did, you would be dedicating it to other things. So
to laundry and unloading the dishwasher and a whole host of other things.
Which, can you kind of maybe help me understand then, why is it when I'm in school, I have the cleanest house on the block?
Well, that's called avoidance.
Okay.
You're avoiding sitting down to do the work, probably because the strategies you're applying are still the old ones that aren't working.
Okay.
So what we know about adults is that we tend to learn in smaller increments than we did as kids. As kids, we can sit down and study that whole chapter of American history at once. As adults, we tend to learn in 5 or 10 minute increments.
Okay.
So maybe what you could do as part of that clean house is go dust a room, but then sit down and take 10 minutes of note review and study.
Oh, okay.
And then revert back to another activity. We learn in smaller increments now. It's just because our brains, because of work environments and all the pressures that we have and all the topics that we deal with on any given day, we deal with smaller chunks of information. We deal with a lot of them, but we do them in small increments.
I can't speak for anybody else, but I do a data dump every night because it's like I feel like I've run out of room. Is there any techniques that, as adults, that we can use to kind of at least retain some of this stuff?
Yeah, I think all of these. Interacting with other people and keeping your learning alive through discussion is huge.
Okay.
Finding brief moments in your day to touch back on that information.
Okay.
And it can be as simple, if you're trying to learn a new anxiety control strategy, we tend to eat regularly. So maybe at breakfast time, you try a strategy for 30 seconds. At lunchtime, when you sit down to start lunch, you try that same strategy for another 30 seconds. At dinner, you come back and you try that strategy for 30 seconds.
Okay.
It's not, I'm going to study this strategy for an hour and practice it. Small increments. It's better yet if you're sitting down to eat with somebody else who can coach you on that strategy. As adults, we need fewer teachers and more coaches.
Okay. So would you mind explaining the difference between coaching and teaching?
Yeah, I think teaching is a fun little phrase, is a sage on a stage. It's this wise person who stands up in front of us and delivers knowledge. As adults, we don't need to be given knowledge. We've learned strategies to find it. We need coaching on where those resources are, how to access those resources and make sense of them. We don't need somebody to tell us all these things we need to do. We need somebody to give us ideas. So it's not, here's the one strategy that's going to work when you get on an airplane and you're anxious. It's, here's 10 strategies that we can investigate together.
Right.
That we can practice together, see which ones work best for you. And we can talk that through. It becomes a social event so that when you're in that moment and you need to apply it, you know which 2 or 3 work best for you.
Gotcha.
So coaching is about, how do I find what I need to know? How do I make sense of it for me? And how do I use it when I need it?
That's just great. I mean, I'm kind of dumbfounded because it's just so much, it's so simple, but yet it's useful,
Yeah, and as adults, we still trigger back to our old ways of learning. We still think they're going to work for us. So we look for the class. We look for the workshop.
Yes.
And many people who are teaching those classes don't understand how to address adult learners.
As much as we don't know how to address
How to do it for ourselves.
This is great information, and thank you. I appreciate this information, Dr. Scott. You have been such a wealth of information. I am so looking forward to our next meeting together. Not that this one's over, but so thank you very much, and appreciate you tuning into Positive Momentum Television.